Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Housing for Good. I'm Karolyn.
And I'm Chris.
All right, Chris, you had some news for us today. So
I do have
what do you got?
I do have some news today. So I don't know if a lot of people are aware, but our SNAP benefits throughout Kansas, a lot of those applications have been deferred or delayed. I don't know the correct terminology for that. So, for instance, I have a child with a disability who has SNAP benefits, and those benefits have been pushed back 30 to 60 days. So, of course, my son is fine because he has family that makes sure he has food and whatever else he needs. But I'm just wondering how many families out there in our community are struggling because they can't get the food that they need for their families, especially single people, people who have a disability of some sort, you know, and people forget that that does affect your housing because if you're trying to figure out how to feed your kids or if you're senior or if you're disabled, are you having to use the money for one thing to take care of the other thing, and what does that look like? So if your food banks in your communities are being overran, this is why.
Yeah, and that's very interesting because I just saw a news article about it where they had like people waiting in line, and they're trying to get in to figure out what's wrong with my application, what do I need to do because I'm not getting my benefits. So it's very current right now.
Yeah, it's very anyway. So that's the only news that I have.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, we are joined today with Jenny Long, and she is with the Kansas Aging and Disability Resource Center. And I just heard about her, and it's like, oh, I've got to know more about this. As our reach gets into the elderly that we're able to help now, I just knew that Jenny was going to know more that my folks were going to need.
Right.
So.
And as we're getting older, our parents are getting older.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a stepdad who just had a stroke, and so I'm really excited to find out what might be available out there that we don't know about.
I know, right? Okay, so Jenny, would you tell us about yourself and what led you to work with the Kansas Aging and Disability Resource Center?
So I have lived in McPherson County for a little over a decade. I have 4 children and a couple of pets, so they keep me busy, certainly. And I had my children early, so I earned my degree later, but my passion has always been health and human services.
Okay.
It is something that from a young age, I was an advocate for my family and family members through applying for services, medical appointments, mostly because of the language barrier.
Okay.
And so I have experienced and witnessed firsthand what being part of an underserved or minority population can make it more difficult for them to access basic services. And so because of those lived experiences, I'm passionate about helping anybody who needs some resources, especially someone or a population that might be underserved. And so I know I can speak with for the rest of our team that is our goal, is to help Kansans with finding resources and services.
Isn't it interesting that most of the people that we interview that's in social services, almost everybody has a story or is connected somehow? I mean, we rarely see somebody that doesn't have their own story.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about this, is how people who have struggled or know someone who has struggled or has been somehow connected with all this stuff that we're all dealing with, and they're willing to give back instead of running away and saying, you know what, I live that, I'm out. You know, they come back and they're willing to give and take the experience from what they've been through.
Yeah.
So that's what I love. I mean, I really do love that. I think it's really pretty special that people are willing to do that. So thank you. Just for me, I mean, because I know you're going to help me with a situation in our family with a person who's been struggling. So
well, and I love one thing she said, where you were an advocate for somebody when they're at medical appointments or hospital stays. And, you know, we just went through some stuff with my dad. My folks are both getting older. And honestly, what I have learned is that depending on what's going on, you hear the first little bit of what that doctor says, and then you can't take any more in. Well, then you add 2 older folks that are at the appointment, but they both get to that spot. So it's like you need somebody there that is also listening just to kind of get an idea of what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, so who should contact the ADRC? Who should call you?
anybody who has a disability or is aging, their family members, caregivers, professionals can contact the ADRC. We help by what's called options counseling. So essentially we have a conversation with them and we figure out what their needs are, their long-term, short-term goals are, and we connect them to those local resources that could be available to them depending on their situation and their needs, of course. And so those can include housing supports, long-term care supports, in-home care supports. For caregivers, that could include respite care. We could connect them to those services. Veteran supports. We've been building quite a network of programs that we know of in different parts of Kansas that we can connect individuals to that is local to them. And so I think that's really neat about our agency is we are a central point of contact, essentially, that can then help connect Kansans to the appropriate organization. And they are not stuck calling A, B, C, or D.
Yes. I had no idea about any of this. Did you?
Yeah. Well, I called Jenny and I said, "Hey, we need to meet for a Coke."
Yes.
So we did that. And the one thing I learned that day in our conversation was it's Kansas Aging and Disability Resource, but you don't have to be old. If you have a child with a disability, whatever that age is, this is a resource for you to call. And so I love that about it because I think so many times we think of disabled as being our older population, but that's not necessarily true. And then the other thing, Jenny came on and spoke on the Balanced Estate COC and let everybody that's on that call know this agency's around and they're here to help. So
I'm excited. So let's dig in a little bit. So kind of give us some examples or a scenario. Like I said, my stepdad just had a stroke. My mom's been taking care of him and families helping when they can. But
of course.
I mean, what happens in a situation? Tell us the scenario of what that would look like.
So for your case specifically, that would include figuring out what his medical coverage is so that then we can identify what is available to him under either Medicare or Medicaid, or if he has private pay, then connecting him to potentially some sort of in-home care service or an agency that specializes in stroke, that is more informed of a patient that has stroke and what needs they would have either through like case management or peer support, caregiver supports as well in education. So there are definitely options for somebody like that and their caregiver throughout the state, and it could help offset a lot of different areas.
Do they reach out to you? Is there a phone number? Do you set an appointment? What does that look like?
The best entry point would be to contact our number, and that is 855-200-2372. And I can also leave that information with you guys for the page, but they would contact the Aging and Disability Resource Center, and we would, like I said, have a conversation with them. And if they feel comfortable having an in-person conversation instead, we have agents throughout the entire state, and so then we can connect a local agent to them where they can go and meet with them in person and do options counseling with them and figure out their needs and provide those contacts.
So do they go to their home or do they meet them somewhere?
Either or. They can either go into their house. Yeah, they can go to their home.
So I know the big phone number I'm going to be calling after this day.
I know, right? I can see that. She's going to write down that number. So.
And I'm right down the road, so I can meet you in person too.
Okay, that would be, it's funny how every time we have one of these, I'm like, oh my goodness, and I'm over here running around figuring out how to, if you're not learning stuff from this podcast, I don't know what you people are doing because there's so much good information.
Yeah.
This is great information. And if you don't live in Kansas, because I know we have people listening from all over the world, from across the country, there has to be someone in every single state across America. And I'm guessing Europe and those, Australia, we have a lot of people in Australia. I bet you have an agency doing just this.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so the one thing I love about what they're doing is so many times people wait until there's an emergency. Like the bottom has just fallen out, something tragic or serious has happened. And so I would just say call now and have a conversation with somebody. Like you said, we'll find out what your insurance coverage will be, what your options are. So what would be some common misconceptions about aging and disability services?
Yes, so exactly that you don't have to wait, and that you have to be low income to be eligible for services. It is very important to be proactive, especially as an individual, so that you can set yourself up long term, or their caregivers. For example, if somebody, somebody has a loved one who maybe is recently diagnosed with dementia, that is a very long journey, and many people, unless you are in it, you don't know what to do. And so at the ADRC, we can help them find figure out a plan, essentially, of what steps to take and what services are available to them, and connect them to those resources.
Wow, this is really good information.
Yeah.
So how does this connect to housing? We always bring it back to housing. What does that look like for your families? Do you counsel them on housing options and what that looks like, and why is that important?
Yes, housing is absolutely one of the many referrals and services that we receive. And honestly, for housing, I would say if you are in a situation where you are at risk, don't wait. Try to seek assistance before you are at a point where you might lose your housing.
Okay.
We have a lot of other connections that we can make that could potentially offset some costs, so that they have more funds for their rent or their utilities, with assistance through meal support programs, commodities, transportation supports, or utility support. So it is very surprising how many programs there are out there, and we are still trying to build our network throughout the state of Kansas so that we can provide more services to Kansans. But it is surprising that how many resources are out there that can then help offset maybe some of those costs for them.
So how can communities better support their seniors and people with disabilities? Do you feel like there's a gap there, things that are missing, things that they could do better to help?
I think being informed is a big factor, and actively trying to work on inclusivity of all walks of life, the aging, the disabled, because there are a lot of skills that can be brought to that community. And I feel like a community that feels very inclusive and where the community cares about their members, that would have more people want to move to that community, because you would feel taken care of and supported within your community.
So do you see a lot of home modifications being done to keep people housed? They want to age at home. So what would be some of those home modifications?
Honestly, it's the most simplest thing, but that can make a big difference. And home modifications or access to durable medical equipment can be very important for especially someone that is aging or disabled to age in place and to keep their independence for as long as possible. And some of those things could include grab bars installed, let's say maybe a stool for their bathroom, ramps. There are a couple of different programs and grants that could help with providing a ramp for someone, even a fall alert system. That could be huge for someone who may be a fall risk, and if their loved one is apprehensive about them remaining in their home because of that, a fall alert system being available would help them maybe stay in their home longer and avoid institutionalization.
And I know with those fall system,
Fall alert system,
whatever you call that. My dad had one, and it went off, and I think he was in the bathroom, and the police showed up. We had not called them, but this thing calls the police, and they will not leave until they see that person was okay, which is awesome. But it was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Right.
And even your mom, she has something on her phone that when your stepdad fell, she was notified, and we just worked down the street from where they live. And so, she got a notification, and she's like, oh, he's fallen. And we're like, well, you can't pick him up. We've got to go help too.
Yeah.
So we ran down the thing, and meanwhile, an ambulance was coming.
Yeah.
And that's when this whole stroke thing happened. But an ambulance was coming, so it not only called her, but it also called the 911.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was really good, actually, because, honestly, he could have been out in that yard for hours.
Right.
Yeah.
And this happened not that long ago, so thank
And
goodness.
I hear about those stories a lot through some of the referrals that we receive where an aging person will say that they had to crawl to their phone
Oh my
or they
gosh.
were, hours. And
Yeah.
so it is very important to look for resources like, that are available, especially through the Aging and Disability Resource Center, so that we can connect their family members to those resources so they're not stuck in that situation.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so what should landlords and property managers know about reasonable accommodations?
I definitely believe that there should be change in policies, rules to accommodate for the aging and disabled population. For example, a lot of landlords do not allow animals. Service animals are a very important part of somebody's rehabilitation and way of, state of life. And so I believe that is one factor, as well as like accessible parking, even adjusting some of their policies for their tenants to say disability-related needs. We do have some landlords who will let their tenants have a ramp installed, or even if it's a temporary one, they will work with them on those things, or they would work with them on having a grab bar installed. And so it is very important for landlords to be aware of diverse needs of its tenants.
So is that a
Well-
legislative issue, are you saying? Because you said we needed policies to be changed. Do you think that would have to happen at that higher level in Kansas?
I think to a point.
Okay. I mean, we're not advocating for anything. We're just bringing it up.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say, Chris and I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody, and we were talking about the difference between a support animal, because you have a disability and you need this in order to function, and an emotional support animal. And the guy we were talking to said, any dog or cat or pet you have is your emotional support animal, but it's not a service animal.
Yes.
And
Right.
there's a difference in that. So, and his point was, if you are a landlord or a property manager, and there is somebody that can show you doctor's evidence that they need this animal to help them. And most of the time we think about somebody that's blind or somebody that maybe can't hear, they've lost their hearing, and you see those animals, but they're highly trained, highly trained.
Yeah.
And so I just want to put that out there. If you have somebody with those disabilities in your housing, there's nothing you can do to keep them from having that service animal for a diagnosed disability.
So my animals are definitely emotionally support animals.
Oh, mine are too.
And the only thing they know how to do for me is to beg when I'm eating. They have no idea. They couldn't help me do anything. They're not going to save me. They're not going to pick up my shoes. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
But I love them. And then, so they're,
Yeah.
but fortunately I don't have to worry about it.
And if you're having a terrible day,
Yes,
they
are-
know it.
Yes, they are your dog. So anyways, we do love our animals, but that doesn't make them an animal that can
support,
do
yeah.
something for me, actually. If I'm having a seizure, they just be looking at me.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
So there's a huge difference between that. So
Yeah.
let's talk about caregivers a little bit. So you brought up earlier that sometimes there's support for caregivers, and I know that's very stressful on the caregiver and the family. What support is there for that? I mean, if you have a family or a person who's giving care for somebody who just had a stroke, like my stepdad, what is that?
So for caregivers and family members, there are a variety of supports that can help them through navigating the system, because as we all know, it's very complicated. There are a lot of entities involved, and so at the ADRC, what we do is we help them narrow down those systems and entities for them to contact. There are a variety of supports that a lot of caregivers don't know about, such as like KRAD. and those are facilitated by the area agencies on aging. It is a grant, I believe, that they are awarded, and it is so much per year, and they can use those funds throughout the year as a caregiver of someone who has Alzheimer's or dementia, either through an agency locating a caregiver or at a day center for a couple of hours, even for their own personal appointments, or even if you need an hour or two once a month to go and grab coffee. Because I like the phrase, if your cup is empty, you can't fill someone else's cup if yours is empty. And caregivers absolutely need to know that there is help, and it is okay to ask for help, and it is very much okay to ask for a break. And that is very important. I have caregivers in my family, and so I've seen firsthand how stressful that can be. And if you don't know what is out there, you know, you can't take advantage of those.
So you don't tell them what they need to do. They tell you, because I mean, and a lot of times in a family, maybe the siblings or their children think, hey, maybe it's time that we should go somewhere that can take better care of this person. But they're not doing that for whatever reason. But you don't get in the middle of that. You just say, here's what's available. What can we do to support your family? Because I don't want people to think you're going to force them into something.
No.
And then they wouldn't call you because they're like, well, I'm going to that person because they're going to try to tell me that I need to do, this, and this.
Yeah, through like I said, we have a conversation with them and identify what their goals and needs are. And we provide an unbiased approach with whatever resources are available to them. We explain the pros and cons of those resources and especially with the ones that they would qualify for. Our goal absolutely is for independence, and so that those Kansans can remain in their own homes with their own autonomy and independence. And I feel like that is very important for their own mental health, for them to stay connected to their families and their communities. And so we call it a person-centered approach, where we focus on, we listen to them and their needs, and then we connect them to those resources that are available.
Okay, now one thing I also remember from our conversation, I've got a few things there that I remember. You can help with applications. If somebody doesn't know how to fill one out, or maybe it's just too complicated, or they don't know which box to mark, you're able to help with that as well. Yes,
and especially for the aging population, or someone who maybe has a disability, even a caregiver, you don't know, you don't want to click something wrong.
Yeah.
You might not know exactly how to apply for a service, and so we will direct them to a professional who does work with those programs and can help them either through administrative case management or peer support to apply for those resources, such as like the Medicaid application process. There is SHIC, which is through, again, the area agencies on aging that helps with their Medicare options. There's assistance for how to enroll in Social Security, because that can also be very complex. And so our goal is to help them get connected to those case managers, especially if they don't have a support system. If they don't have family, if they don't have a support system, it can be really difficult to navigate those applications.
All right, so I'm just going to have a confession here.
Oh, that's okay.
It's time for me to sign up for Medicare.
Oh, my goodness.
I got somebody to help me.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to do this on my own because I don't want to mess it up. And then I want to make sure I have all of the supplemental stuff that goes with it,
parts, A and B and D and Q.
Exactly.
All the parts.
Yes.
You have to have parts. It's not just Medicare. You have to have all the stuff. I think it's Part B or
Well, I don't know those letters, but I know you want supplemental health. And then I have all my teeth, and I want to keep all my teeth, so I want to go to the dentist. And then I need to see the eye doctor, so I want to have that. Those appointments are not cheap. And so even paying for some insurance, it's still better than having nothing. So
okay, so let's talk about, we talked about Medicare and Medicaid a little. What about long-term care options? How do you address that at all? Because a lot of people, my dad didn't go into long-term care until he was only there a few months. I mean, he lived with us, and we couldn't take care of him. He knew that his needs were getting more and more difficult. And I knew he wasn't comfortable in our home because I don't have a roll-in shower, and I had a lot of things. We had a hospital bed, we had everything else, but we just couldn't do it, and he needed full-time care. So how do you approach a family, or what does that look like, that long-term care?
Yes. So the goal, like I've said, is for them to remain as independent as possible. So our approach is to, just listen to what their needs are, maybe what level of care they are needing, and then provide those options. We do, and sometimes I feel like I cringe a little bit when I have to mention assisted living or nursing, because that's scary, and there is a fear of going into those facilities and their health declining rapidly in those facilities. I feel like they have changed, though. There are a lot of activities and good things in the facility, so I don't want to say anything that there's anything negative about it, but there is a point where that becomes a reality. Especially for someone who maybe has dementia, they need to be in a memory care unit that can provide the level of care that they need, and that the family cannot support in home anymore. And so we go over those. We have those conversations. We listen to their needs, and if it is a situation where, and a lot of times they call in, our callers, family members, caregivers call in, and they know that that's where they're at.
Yeah.
And so we can then help coordinate through the system of what programs would be best for them. There is the home community-based service program that is for Medicaid recipients. And at the ADRC, we facilitate the intake for that program. So we are the first step for those waivers, which are like the frail and elderly waiver, the physical disability waiver. There's a brain injury waiver, intellectual developmental disability waiver. So there are different waivers depending on the needs. And the frail and elderly and physical disability waiver are the two that would help with, in two parts. The primary goal is for in-home care, but the second part is if they are needing then assisted living care, then those waivers can help with that as well.
My dad was in Heston at Shiloh Manor, and the care he received was excellent. The facility was wonderful. I would go there if I got to the point where it was difficult to take care of me, which it's difficult to take care of me if you can ask my husband how I am. But anyways, it was a wonderful place. And so I think, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think visiting different facilities, maybe and seeing what's there. I would come and see him every week because it's a little it's not that far. It's 20, 30 miles from here. But every weekend I'd spend with them. And the nurses were there constantly offering him snacks and are you okay, and checking his blood sugar. And I dropped something one day. We were messing around trying to rearrange, and I dropped a set of books. And within 30 seconds, they were in that room. I don't know if there was secret cameras or whatever, but I never, and I would come at different times. So it wasn't like they were figuring out I was going to come at 1 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatever. I was there all the time at different times, and the care was incredible. They did such a good job. I just felt really good about leaving him there because that's not something that I wanted. It was horrible. I did not want to do it, but I knew that he needed more care than we could provide.
Right. And there are agencies in Kansas that can help families locate the best facility for their family member. They go through tours with them. They help them figure out what questions need to be asked and what sort of insurance is needed or the financial level that they would need to be for certain facilities. And so there are programs that can help family members locate facilities for their loved ones too.
Okay, this brings up a question that I have.
Okay.
For Kansans that live in rural areas, small towns, what kind of challenges do they face in accessing aging and disability services?
I feel like in rural communities, there's just a challenge in general to receive services or locate services just because they are so out of reach and there's limited funding to be able to accommodate for that distance, essentially, either through like transportation or meals on like meal supports. There is even an issue with locating caregiver supports that would go that far. And so that is certainly something that I feel is a challenge for rural communities in having those supports, is the distance and the funding. But I do think that rural communities have something where a lot of them, because of that, they have stronger community involvement, either through a health department or a senior center. So they know that their community may not be able to receive a lot of supports, and so they provide those supports either through like volunteer services or even checking in on their neighbors. Like that is huge, and we do receive a lot of referrals from neighbors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we like to say that housing is the foundation of everything. And from your perspective, how does having safe, stable housing affect the person's health, independence, and overall quality of life as they age or live with a disability?
So I feel like having appropriate housing that you feel safe in and that you are not worried about, am I going to be able to afford this or that? That is such an important part of their mental health and their physical health, to feel that they are safe. And on top of that, their family can feel comfortable knowing that their loved one is able to be in their community still and be involved with their grandchildren or great-grandchildren. And I feel like that's very important for an individual, for their autonomy, for their and mental health especially.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I say it every time.
I know.
Such a good guest.
This was
and
a
conversation.
great conversation. I loved it.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot. And right now in our family's life, this is very important.
Yeah.
And all of you eventually, I'm guessing, are going to be in the same spot that our family is right now, trying to figure out how do we care properly for somebody that's aging and having some difficulty. So thank you for my personal, for my family. All this information is going to be great.
Well, and if you heard nothing else today, please reach out before it's a critical situation or an emergency.
Right.
Go ahead and find out what's out there.
Yeah.
And so get a hold of Jenny.
Yes. Give us that number again.
Yes, it's 855-200-2372.
Okay, I caught her off guard a little. Sorry about that.
It's always on the spot. I forget. But and I will provide that contact information for our agency as well.
Oh,
and
awesome. Okay.
So anybody in Kansas, caregivers, even if you are a family member that your loved one lives in Kansas, but you might be a child who lives in Texas or anywhere else, you can contact us too, and we can try to get your loved one.
Oh, that's good too.
Okay, good to know.
Yes.
All right, so if you would be interested, or you know somebody that would be interested to be on our podcast, Housing for Good, please do let us know that at housingforgood@mcphersonhc.org. Leave us a review. Tell us how we're doing. Ask a question. We'd love to hear from you.
And have a great day.